Question 1. Implementation of Tivoli network and service assurance solutions requires a strategic approach to ensure both optimal performance and adherence to regulatory mandates. Which of the following implementation strategies best aligns with professional best practices and regulatory expectations for service assurance in a highly regulated industry? Option A. A phased deployment with rigorous testing and validation at each stage, comprehensive documentation of configurations and procedures, and integration into existing change and incident management processes. Option B. A rapid deployment focused on achieving immediate performance gains, with post-implementation adjustments made as issues arise. Option C. A deployment that focuses exclusively on technical performance metrics, neglecting broader service availability and user experience considerations. Option D. Implementation without formal change control procedures, prioritizing speed of deployment over detailed documentation. Correct answer is A. A phased deployment with rigorous testing and validation at each stage, comprehensive documentation of configurations and procedures, and integration into existing change and incident management processes. Explanation. Scenario analysis. Implementing Tivoli network and service assurance solutions in a regulated environment presents a significant challenge due to the critical nature of network availability and service performance for business operations and compliance. Organizations must balance the technical requirements of deploying and managing these solutions with stringent regulatory obligations that mandate data integrity, service continuity, and auditability. Failure to adhere to these regulations can result in severe penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. Therefore, the approach to implementation must be meticulously planned and executed with a deep understanding of both the technology and the applicable regulatory landscape. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased implementation strategy that prioritizes comprehensive testing and validation at each stage, aligning with established IT governance frameworks and regulatory requirements. This includes thorough documentation of all configuration changes, performance baselines, and incident response procedures. Continuous monitoring and regular audits are essential to ensure ongoing compliance and to identify any deviations from expected performance or security standards. This methodical and documented approach directly supports regulatory mandates for accountability, transparency, and risk management, ensuring that the deployed solution not only meets technical objectives, but also upholds legal and ethical responsibilities. Incorrect approach is analysis. A rapid, deploy-and-fix approach without adequate upfront planning and testing is professionally unacceptable. This bypasses critical validation steps, increasing the risk of service disruptions and data integrity issues, which directly contravenes regulatory requirements for service continuity and data protection. Such an approach demonstrates a disregard for due diligence and risk assessment, potentially leading to non-compliance with service-level agreements and regulatory reporting obligations. Implementing the solution without integrating it into existing change management and incident response processes is also a failure. This creates operational silos and hinders effective troubleshooting and problem resolution. Regulations often require clear lines of responsibility and documented procedures for managing IT infrastructure and responding to incidents, which this approach neglects. It undermines the ability to provide auditable records of system changes and service degradations. Focusing solely on technical performance metrics without considering the broader impact on service availability and user experience is another flawed strategy. While performance is important, regulatory compliance often extends to ensuring that services remain accessible and functional for end users, especially in critical sectors. Ignoring these aspects can lead to breaches of service-level agreements and regulatory penalties related to service disruption. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach to implementation, prioritizing activities that mitigate potential compliance and operational risks. This involves understanding the specific regulatory obligations relevant to the organization's industry and geographic location. A structured implementation methodology, such as ITIL or COBIT, should be leveraged to ensure that all aspects of the deployment, from planning and design to testing, deployment and ongoing management, are conducted in a controlled and auditable manner. Continuous engagement with stakeholders, including compliance officers and business unit leaders, is crucial to ensure that the solution effectively meets both technical and regulatory requirements. Regular reviews and audits should be scheduled to confirm ongoing adherence to best practices and regulatory standards. Question 2. The performance metrics show a significant increase in application response times and a corresponding rise in user-reported errors for a critical business application. Network latency appears stable, and server CPU utilization is within normal ranges. Which approach best aligns with best practices for diagnosing the root cause of this service degradation? Option A. Begin by examining the application's internal logs and transaction traces for anomalies, correlating any findings with the observed service impact. Option B. Immediately initiate a deep packet inspection on all network segments serving the application to identify any unusual traffic patterns. Option C. Focus on optimizing the network routing paths to reduce any perceived latency, assuming the application itself is functioning correctly. Option D. Review the configuration of all network devices in the path, looking for recent changes that might coincide with the performance drop. Correct answer is A. Begin by examining the application's internal logs and transaction traces for anomalies, correlating any findings with the observed service impact. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT service assurance, interpreting performance data to identify the root cause of service degradation. The difficulty lies in distinguishing between symptoms and underlying issues, especially when multiple components are involved. Professionals must exercise careful judgment to avoid misdiagnosis, which can lead to wasted resources, prolonged outages, and customer dissatisfaction. The pressure to quickly restore service can also lead to hasty decisions. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic, top-down analysis, starting with the service layer and progressively drilling down into the network and application components. This aligns with best practices in IT service management frameworks, such as ITIL, which emphasize a service-centric view. By correlating service-level indicators, SLI, with underlying infrastructure metrics, the professional can pinpoint the component that is most directly impacting the service. This methodical approach ensures that the identified issue is indeed the root cause and not merely a symptom of a deeper problem. This is crucial for efficient problem resolution and preventing recurrence, adhering to the principle of effective resource allocation and service continuity, which are implicit in regulatory expectations for reliable service delivery. Incorrect approaches analysis. Focusing solely on network device metrics without considering the service impact is an incorrect approach. This can lead to addressing network-level issues that are not the primary cause of the service problem, thus failing to resolve the customer's experience. It represents a failure to adhere to service-level agreements, SLAs, and can be seen as a lack of due diligence in understanding the business impact of technical issues. Investigating individual application logs in isolation without correlating them to network performance or overall service health is also an incorrect approach. This can lead to chasing down application-specific errors that are themselves caused by underlying network or infrastructure problems. This approach neglects the interconnectedness of IT systems and the holistic nature of service assurance, potentially violating implicit expectations of comprehensive problem management. Implementing immediate, unverified configuration changes to network devices based on preliminary data is a highly risky and incorrect approach. This can exacerbate the problem, introduce new issues, or cause further service disruption. It demonstrates a lack of a structured problem-solving process and a disregard for change management protocols, which are often underpinned by regulatory requirements for stability and availability. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured problem-solving methodology. This involves 1. Understanding the reported issue and its business impact. 2. Gathering relevant data from all layers of the IT stack, including service, application, and network. 3. Correlating data across these layers to identify potential root causes. 4. Prioritizing potential causes based on their likelihood and impact. 5. Testing hypotheses through controlled diagnostics. 6. Implementing the most probable solution. 7. Verifying the resolution and documenting the process. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are data-driven, efficient, and minimize the risk of further disruption, aligning with professional standards of care and service delivery. Question 3. System analysis indicates a significant degradation in network service performance, impacting critical business applications. The operations team is under immense pressure to restore full functionality immediately. Which of the following approaches best represents a professional and effective method for addressing this situation, considering the need for both rapid resolution and long-term service stability? Option A. Focus on scaling up network resources, such as increasing bandwidth and processing power, to accommodate the perceived increased load without investigating the underlying cause of the performance drop. Option B. Immediately roll back all recent configuration changes across the network infrastructure, assuming one of them is the likely culprit for the performance issues. Option C. Implement a temporary workaround by rerouting traffic around the affected components and increasing available bandwidth to mitigate the immediate impact, deferring a full investigation. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive root cause analysis by examining network logs, performance metrics, and recent configuration changes to identify the precise source of the degradation before implementing a targeted fix. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive root cause analysis by examining network logs, performance metrics, and recent configuration changes to identify the precise source of the degradation before implementing a targeted fix. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT service assurance, balancing the immediate need for service restoration with the long-term implications of rushed remediation. The pressure to resolve an outage quickly can lead to shortcuts that might not address the root cause, potentially leading to recurring issues and increased operational costs. Professionals must exercise sound judgment to ensure that immediate actions are also strategically aligned with maintaining service integrity and compliance. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a structured investigation to identify the root cause of the network performance degradation before implementing a solution. This aligns with best practices in IT service management, particularly within frameworks like ITIL, which underpins Tivoli solutions. By thoroughly analyzing logs, performance metrics, and configuration changes, the team can pinpoint the exact issue. Implementing a solution based on this root cause analysis ensures that the fix is effective and prevents recurrence, thereby maintaining service availability and performance as per service level agreements, SLAs. This proactive and analytical approach minimizes the risk of future incidents and demonstrates due diligence in managing IT services, which is implicitly expected under general IT governance principles. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing a broad rollback of recent configuration changes without a specific analysis of the impact or root cause is a risky strategy. While it might resolve the immediate issue, it could inadvertently revert necessary updates or introduce new problems, leading to further instability. This approach lacks the analytical rigor expected in professional IT operations and could violate principles of change management, which require controlled and documented modifications. Applying a temporary workaround that bypasses the affected component without understanding why it failed is also problematic. This approach prioritizes speed over resolution and does not address the underlying problem. It can mask the true issue, making future diagnosis more difficult and potentially leading to more severe failures down the line. This demonstrates a lack of commitment to robust service assurance and can be seen as a failure to uphold professional standards of thoroughness. Focusing solely on increasing resource allocation, e.g., bandwidth, without investigating the cause of the degradation, is a reactive and potentially costly solution. While it might temporarily alleviate symptoms, it does not address the root cause and could lead to inefficient resource utilization. This approach fails to demonstrate a commitment to understanding and resolving the fundamental issues affecting service performance. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a systematic approach to incident management and problem resolution. This involves 1. Incident identification and logging. Clearly define and log the incident. 2. Incident support and investigation. Gather information, analyze symptoms, and attempt to identify the root cause. 3. Resolution and recovery. Implement a solution that addresses the root cause and restores service. 4. Incident closure. Document the incident, resolution, and lessons learned. In situations of performance degradation, a deep dive into diagnostic data, correlation of events, and understanding the impact of recent changes are paramount. This methodical process ensures that solutions are effective, sustainable, and align with service objectives. Question 4. System analysis indicates that a financial services organization is implementing Tivoli network and service assurance solutions to monitor its critical trading platforms. The primary goal is to ensure high availability and compliance with stringent financial regulations. Considering the complexity of the trading environment and the potential for rapid changes, which approach to applying the Tivoli solutions best aligns with professional best practices for effective service assurance and regulatory adherence. Option A. Implement a comprehensive monitoring strategy that covers all network devices and applications from the outset, focusing on capturing the widest possible range of data points to ensure no potential issue is missed. Option B. Prioritize monitoring efforts based on a risk assessment of critical business services and their dependencies, starting with essential monitoring for these high-impact areas and iteratively expanding coverage as operational capacity and business needs evolve. Option C. Focus on enabling every advanced feature within the Tivoli suite to maximize the return on investment in the technology, irrespective of immediate business requirements or operational feasibility. Option D. Deploy monitoring for only those network components and applications that have historically experienced performance issues, relying on a reactive approach to address known problems. The correct answer is A. Implement a comprehensive monitoring strategy that covers all network devices and applications from the outset, focusing on capturing the widest possible range of data points to ensure no potential issue is missed. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in network and service assurance, balancing the need for proactive issue detection with the operational overhead and potential for false positives. The challenge lies in selecting an appropriate monitoring strategy that aligns with business objectives and regulatory compliance without overwhelming the operations team or incurring unnecessary costs. The pressure to demonstrate value and efficiency in applying Tivoli solutions adds another layer of complexity, requiring a thoughtful evaluation of different approaches. Correct approach analysis. The best professional practice in this scenario involves a phased, risk-based implementation of monitoring capabilities. This approach prioritizes critical services and network components that have the highest impact on business operations and regulatory compliance. By starting with a baseline of essential monitoring and gradually expanding coverage based on observed performance, identified risks, and evolving business needs, the organization can ensure that Tivoli network and service assurance solutions are applied effectively and efficiently. This aligns with best practices for IT service management (ITSM) and demonstrates a commitment to continuous improvement. From a regulatory perspective, this phased approach allows for focused efforts on meeting specific compliance requirements for critical services first, ensuring that immediate risks are mitigated. It also provides a structured framework for demonstrating due diligence in managing network and service performance. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing comprehensive, all-encompassing monitoring from the outset without a clear prioritization strategy is professionally unsound. This approach can lead to an overwhelming volume of alerts, making it difficult to distinguish critical issues from minor anomalies. This alert fatigue can result in missed critical incidents, impacting service availability and potentially leading to regulatory breaches if service-level agreements, SLAs, are not met. Ethically, it represents a failure to allocate resources effectively and a lack of foresight in managing the operational impact. Focusing solely on monitoring for known, historical issues without considering emerging threats or potential future problems is also a flawed strategy. This reactive approach neglects the proactive nature of service assurance and can leave the organization vulnerable to new types of failures or performance degradations. It fails to leverage the full capabilities of Tivoli solutions for predictive analysis and early warning, potentially leading to significant service disruptions and reputational damage. This approach also risks noncompliance with regulations that require a forward-looking risk management posture. Adopting a monitoring strategy driven purely by the desire to utilize every feature of the Tivoli suite, regardless of business need or operational capacity, is another professional misstep. This can result in the implementation of complex monitoring that provides little actionable insight or is too resource-intensive to maintain effectively. It demonstrates a lack of strategic alignment between technology deployment and business objectives, potentially leading to wasted investment and a failure to achieve the intended benefits of the solution. This can also create compliance challenges if the monitoring is not directly tied to measurable service quality or regulatory mandates. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach the application of Tivoli network and service assurance solutions by first understanding the critical business services and their dependencies. This understanding should then inform a risk assessment to identify areas where monitoring is most crucial for maintaining service availability, performance, and regulatory compliance. A phased implementation plan, starting with high-priority areas and gradually expanding, allows for iterative refinement and ensures that resources are used effectively. Regular review of monitoring effectiveness, alert thresholds, and alignment with business objectives is essential for continuous improvement and demonstrating the value of the implemented solutions. This structured, risk-aware, and business-aligned approach ensures that the application of Tivoli solutions is both technically sound and strategically beneficial. Question 5. Investigation of the integration of Tivoli Network Manager IP Edition into a financial services organization's infrastructure, where the primary concern is ensuring that all network performance and service availability data collected and reported by the solution strictly adheres to the stringent data privacy and audit trail regulations mandated by the Financial Conduct Authority, FCA, for the UK jurisdiction. The implementation team is debating the most effective strategy to achieve this compliance. Option A. Focus solely on technical performance metrics and service uptime, deferring any detailed examination of FCA data privacy and audit trail mandates until after the system has been fully operational for at least 6 months. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive review of FCA regulations pertaining to data handling and audit trails. Map these requirements to Tivoli Network Manager IP Edition's data collection, storage, and reporting capabilities, and then design the implementation plan to incorporate specific compliance configurations and validation steps. Option C. Rely on the default configuration settings of Tivoli Network Manager IP Edition, assuming they are designed to meet general industry best practices and will therefore satisfy FCA requirements without specific customization. Option D. Deploy Tivoli Network Manager IP Edition immediately to gain broad network visibility and address operational performance issues, with the intention of retrofitting any necessary compliance controls once initial operational stability is achieved. The correct answer is B. Conduct a comprehensive review of FCA regulations pertaining to data handling and audit trails. Map these requirements to Tivoli Network Manager IP Edition's data collection, storage, and reporting capabilities, and then design the implementation plan to incorporate specific compliance configurations and validation steps. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common implementation challenge in network and service assurance. Integrating a new monitoring solution, Tivoli Network Manager IP Edition, into an existing, complex IT environment with established operational procedures and regulatory compliance requirements. The challenge lies in ensuring that the new system not only functions technically, but also adheres to the strict data handling and reporting mandates of the relevant regulatory framework. The pressure to demonstrate compliance quickly, coupled with potential resistance to change from existing teams, adds to the professional difficulty. The need to balance technical efficacy with regulatory adherence requires careful planning and stakeholder management. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased implementation strategy that prioritizes compliance from the outset. This means conducting a thorough review of the existing regulatory framework, e.g., specific data privacy laws, service-level agreement reporting requirements, or industry-specific compliance standards applicable to the exam's jurisdiction, and mapping these requirements to the Tivoli solution's capabilities. Early engagement with compliance officers and legal teams ensures that data collection, storage, and reporting mechanisms within Tivoli are configured to meet all mandates. A pilot deployment in a controlled environment allows for validation of compliance controls before a full rollout. This proactive, compliance-first methodology represents best professional practice because it minimizes the risk of non-compliance, which can lead to significant financial penalties, reputational damage, and operational disruption. It demonstrates a commitment to responsible technology deployment and adherence to legal and ethical obligations. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves prioritizing immediate operational visibility over compliance. This might manifest as a rapid deployment of Tivoli Network Manager IP Edition to gather as much data as possible without a prior assessment of regulatory implications. This is professionally unacceptable because it creates a high risk of collecting, storing, or reporting data in a manner that violates privacy laws or other mandates. For example, if the regulatory framework dictates specific data anonymization or retention policies, collecting raw, identifiable data without proper controls would be a direct violation. Another incorrect approach is to assume that the default configurations of Tivoli Network Manager IP Edition are sufficient for compliance. This is a dangerous assumption. Regulatory requirements are often nuanced and specific to the organization's operating environment and jurisdiction. Relying on out-of-the-box settings without validation against the specific regulatory framework can lead to overlooking critical compliance controls, such as audit trail requirements or access control limitations. This failure to perform due diligence is a significant ethical and regulatory lapse. Finally, a reactive approach, where compliance issues are only addressed after they are identified during an audit or incident, is also professionally unsound. This approach demonstrates a lack of foresight and a failure to embed compliance into the implementation process. It is far more costly and disruptive to remediate compliance failures retrospectively than to prevent them proactively. This reactive stance can be seen as negligent in fulfilling professional responsibilities to ensure lawful and ethical operations. Professional reasoning. Professionals tasked with implementing Tivoli network and service assurance solutions must adopt a risk-based, compliance-driven approach. The decision-making process should begin with a comprehensive understanding of the applicable regulatory landscape. This involves identifying all relevant laws, regulations, and industry standards that govern data handling, service assurance, and reporting within the organization's jurisdiction. Subsequently, these requirements must be translated into specific configuration and operational guidelines for the Tivoli solution. Stakeholder engagement, particularly with legal, compliance, and security teams, is crucial throughout the planning and implementation phases. A phased rollout with rigorous testing and validation of compliance controls is essential. The guiding principle should always be to ensure that technical implementation directly supports and upholds regulatory obligations, rather than treating compliance as an afterthought. Question 6. What factors determine the most effective strategy for integrating a new Tivoli network and service assurance solution into a complex existing IT infrastructure to ensure minimal disruption and maximum compliance? Option A. The extent of pre-deployment testing in a dedicated staging environment and the comprehensiveness of the phased rollout plan. Option B. The speed at which the Tivoli solution can be made operational in the production environment. Option C. The immediate availability of detailed technical documentation for the Tivoli solution. Option D. The number of advanced technical features of the Tivoli solution that can be immediately enabled. The correct answer is A. The extent of pre-deployment testing in a dedicated staging environment and the comprehensiveness of the phased rollout plan. Explanation. The scenario presents a common implementation challenge in network and service assurance. Integrating a new Tivoli solution into an existing, complex IT environment. The professional challenge lies in balancing the immediate need for enhanced visibility and control with the long-term implications for system stability, data integrity, and compliance. Careful judgment is required to select an implementation strategy that minimizes disruption while maximizing the value of the Tivoli solution. The correct approach, which involves a phased rollout with thorough testing in a staging environment before production deployment, represents best professional practice because it aligns with principles of risk management and operational excellence. This method ensures that potential issues are identified and resolved in a controlled setting, preventing widespread service degradation or data corruption in the live production environment. From a regulatory perspective, this approach supports adherence to service-level agreements, SLAs, and demonstrates due diligence in maintaining service availability and performance, which are often subject to regulatory oversight or industry standards. It also facilitates compliance with data governance policies by ensuring that data collected by the Tivoli solution is accurate and handled appropriately from the outset. An incorrect approach that prioritizes rapid deployment without adequate testing in a staging environment poses significant regulatory and ethical risks. Such haste could lead to unforeseen system incompatibilities or performance bottlenecks, potentially causing service outages. This directly violates the professional obligation to maintain service continuity and could result in breaches of contractual SLAs, leading to financial penalties and reputational damage. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of foresight and a disregard for the impact on end users and business operations. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on the technical features of the Tivoli solution without considering the existing operational processes and personnel training, is also professionally unsound. This oversight can lead to underutilization of the solution, incorrect configuration, and an inability for the operations team to effectively leverage its capabilities. This failure to integrate the solution holistically into the operational framework can result in missed opportunities for proactive issue detection and resolution, potentially leading to prolonged downtimes and increased operational costs. This indirectly impacts compliance by hindering the ability to meet performance metrics and respond effectively to incidents, which are often audit points. A further incorrect approach, neglecting to establish clear data ownership and access control policies for the data collected by the Tivoli solution, presents serious data privacy and security concerns. Without these policies, sensitive network and service data could be exposed to unauthorized access or misused, leading to breaches of data protection regulations. This not only carries legal ramifications, but also erodes trust with stakeholders. Professionally, it represents a failure to uphold the responsibility of safeguarding sensitive information. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured risk assessment, a clear understanding of business objectives, and a phased implementation plan. This includes defining success criteria, identifying potential risks and mitigation strategies, and ensuring adequate resources for testing, training, and ongoing support. Professionals should prioritize solutions and implementation methods that demonstrably support compliance with relevant regulations and ethical standards, such as data privacy, service availability, and operational integrity. Question 7. When evaluating the implementation of Tivoli Network and Service Assurance, TNSA, for a financial services organization operating under strict data privacy regulations, which approach best balances the immediate need for comprehensive network performance monitoring with the imperative to comply with data governance and security mandates? Option A. Deploy TNSA with default configurations to gain immediate visibility, deferring detailed data classification and security policy integration to a post-deployment review phase. Option B. Configure TNSA to collect all available network data without initial filtering, assuming that subsequent analysis will identify and secure sensitive information as needed. Option C. Implement TNSA in phases, starting with essential monitoring capabilities, and concurrently developing and integrating data classification schemas and robust security policies tailored to the sensitivity of network data collected. Option D. Prioritize the deployment of TNSA solely based on its ability to detect and report on performance anomalies, with security and data governance considerations addressed only if specific incidents trigger them. The correct answer is A. Deploy TNSA with default configurations to gain immediate visibility, deferring detailed data classification and security policy integration to a post-deployment review phase. Explanation. This scenario presents a common implementation challenge where a critical network service assurance solution, Tivoli Network and Service Assurance, TNSA, is being deployed. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate need for operational visibility with the long-term implications of data management and compliance. The professional difficulty arises from competing priorities: rapid deployment for immediate benefit versus adherence to established data governance and security policies, which are often dictated by regulatory frameworks. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the deployment not only meets technical objectives, but also aligns with legal and ethical obligations concerning data handling and system integrity. The correct approach emphasizes a phased implementation that includes thorough data classification and security policy integration from the outset. This represents best professional practice because it proactively addresses potential compliance risks. By ensuring that data collected by TNSA is classified according to its sensitivity, and that appropriate security controls are applied based on this classification, the solution adheres to principles of data minimization and purpose limitation, which are fundamental to many data protection regulations. Furthermore, integrating security and compliance checks into the deployment lifecycle reduces the likelihood of costly remediation efforts later and ensures continuous adherence to evolving regulatory landscapes. This approach demonstrates a commitment to responsible data stewardship and risk management. An incorrect approach that prioritizes rapid deployment without adequate data classification and security policy integration poses significant regulatory and ethical failures. Such an approach could lead to the unauthorized access or disclosure of sensitive network performance data, violating data privacy laws and potentially leading to severe penalties. It also fails to uphold the ethical responsibility to protect the integrity and confidentiality of information entrusted to the organization. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on technical performance metrics without considering the context of the data being collected, overlooks the potential for misinterpretation or misuse of that data. This can lead to flawed decision-making and a failure to meet service-level agreements in a compliant manner. A third incorrect approach, delaying security policy integration until after the initial deployment, creates a window of vulnerability. This is ethically questionable as it knowingly exposes the system and its data to risks, and it is regulatorily unsound as it fails to implement necessary safeguards from the start, potentially contravening requirements for proactive security measures. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a risk-based approach. This begins with a comprehensive understanding of the regulatory environment applicable to the data being managed by TNSA. Next, stakeholders from IT security, legal, compliance, and operations must collaborate to define data classification schemas and security policies. The implementation plan should then be designed to incorporate these policies iteratively, rather than as an afterthought. Regular audits and reviews should be scheduled to ensure ongoing compliance and to adapt to changes in regulations or business requirements. This structured, collaborative, and proactive approach ensures that technical solutions are deployed responsibly and ethically, minimizing risk and maximizing value. Question 8. Risk assessment procedures indicate that the implementation of Tivoli network and service assurance solutions for enhanced performance monitoring and fault detection across a critical financial services network requires careful consideration to avoid unintended service disruptions. The primary objective is to gain real-time visibility into network health and service availability without negatively impacting the performance of the very services being monitored. Given the sensitive nature of financial transactions and the stringent regulatory environment, what is the most prudent approach to deploying these assurance solutions? Option A. Conduct a pilot deployment of the Tivoli solution on a representative, non-production segment of the network to validate performance impact and data accuracy before a phased rollout to production environments. Option B. Prioritize the collection of all available network telemetry data from every device, assuming that more data will inherently lead to better insights and address performance concerns post-deployment. Option C. Immediately deploy the Tivoli solution across the entire production network to ensure comprehensive coverage from the outset, relying on vendor documentation for configuration best practices. Option D. Implement the Tivoli solution in a limited scope, focusing only on the most critical network devices and deferring the integration of service-level monitoring until a later phase to simplify initial deployment. The correct answer is A. Conduct a pilot deployment of the Tivoli solution on a representative, non-production segment of the network to validate performance impact and data accuracy before a phased rollout to production environments. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge due to the critical nature of network and service assurance in maintaining operational integrity and compliance. The implementation of Tivoli network and service assurance solutions, particularly concerning performance monitoring and fault detection, directly impacts an organization's ability to meet service-level agreements, SLAs, and regulatory requirements. The challenge lies in balancing the need for comprehensive data collection with the potential for performance degradation of the monitored network itself, and ensuring that the chosen approach aligns with established best practices and any applicable industry-specific regulations or guidelines that might govern data handling and service availability. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a phased, controlled implementation that minimizes disruption and allows for validation at each stage. This aligns with principles of robust IT service management (ITSM) frameworks, such as ITIL, which emphasize change management and risk mitigation. By starting with a pilot deployment in a non-critical segment, the team can gather real-world performance data, identify potential issues, and refine configurations before a full-scale rollout. This proactive approach ensures that the assurance solution itself does not become a source of performance problems or compliance breaches, thereby upholding the organization's commitment to service reliability and data integrity. An incorrect approach that involves immediate, large-scale deployment without prior testing would represent a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Such an action could lead to widespread service degradation, impacting critical business functions and potentially violating contractual SLAs. From a regulatory perspective, depending on the industry, failure to maintain service availability could result in fines or sanctions. Ethically, it demonstrates a disregard for the impact on end users and stakeholders, prioritizing speed over due diligence and potentially causing reputational damage. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on collecting the maximum amount of data without a clear strategy for its analysis or retention, would also be professionally unsound. This could lead to data overload, making it difficult to identify critical alerts and potentially incurring significant storage costs. It also raises questions about data privacy and compliance with data retention policies, which are often governed by specific regulations. Failing to establish clear data governance can lead to non-compliance with data protection laws. A third incorrect approach, neglecting to involve key stakeholders such as network operations and application owners in the planning and testing phases, would be a failure in professional collaboration and risk management. This oversight can lead to misconfigurations, missed critical dependencies, and a lack of buy-in, ultimately hindering the effectiveness of the solution and potentially creating new operational challenges. Effective communication and collaboration are fundamental to successful IT implementations and are often implicitly or explicitly required by organizational policies and industry standards. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough risk assessment, followed by a phased implementation strategy. This includes defining clear objectives for the assurance solution, identifying critical network segments and services, and planning for pilot deployments. Continuous monitoring of both the network and the assurance solution's performance is crucial, along with regular communication with all relevant stakeholders. Adherence to established ITSM processes for change management and incident response will ensure a controlled and effective deployment. Question 9. Operational review demonstrates intermittent but significant service disruptions across the core network infrastructure following the recent deployment of Tivoli network and service assurance solutions. The team is tasked with identifying the root cause and resolving the issue promptly. Which of the following approaches represents the most professional and effective method for addressing this implementation challenge? Option A. Focus troubleshooting efforts exclusively on existing network hardware and software configurations, assuming the newly implemented Tivoli solution is functioning as intended and not contributing to the disruptions. Option B. Deploy the Tivoli solution across the entire production network in a phased manner, starting with a small, isolated segment and progressively expanding its scope while closely monitoring for any impact on service performance and stability. Option C. Immediately disable the Tivoli solution across the network to restore service stability, and then conduct a separate, in-depth investigation into the Tivoli deployment at a later stage. Option D. Proceed with a full, immediate deployment of the Tivoli solution across the entire production network to ensure comprehensive monitoring coverage, and then address any service disruptions that arise as a secondary concern. The correct answer is B. Deploy the Tivoli solution across the entire production network in a phased manner, starting with a small, isolated segment and progressively expanding its scope while closely monitoring for any impact on service performance and stability. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common implementation challenge in network and service assurance, balancing the need for comprehensive monitoring with the potential for performance degradation caused by the monitoring tools themselves. The challenge lies in identifying the root cause of intermittent service disruptions when the monitoring solution is a potential contributor. This requires a methodical approach to isolate variables and avoid making assumptions, especially when dealing with critical network services. The professional challenge is to maintain service availability while troubleshooting, ensuring that the diagnostic process does not exacerbate the problem. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased, controlled deployment and validation strategy. This aligns with best professional practices for implementing IT solutions, particularly those that impact network performance. By initially deploying the Tivoli solution in a limited, non-production environment or a carefully selected segment of the production network, and then systematically expanding its scope while monitoring for impact, the team can isolate the cause of the service disruptions. This controlled methodology ensures that any observed performance issues can be directly attributed to the Tivoli implementation rather than other network factors. This approach is ethically sound as it prioritizes service continuity and minimizes risk to end users. It also adheres to principles of good IT governance by ensuring that changes are managed and validated before full deployment. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing the Tivoli solution across the entire production network without prior testing in a controlled environment is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It demonstrates a disregard for service availability and potential impact on customers, which could lead to breaches of service-level agreements, SLAs, and reputational damage. This approach lacks due diligence and a risk-based methodology, which are fundamental to professional IT operations. Disabling the Tivoli solution entirely without a clear understanding of its role in the observed disruption is also professionally unsound. While it might temporarily alleviate symptoms, it fails to address the underlying issue and prevents the team from gathering crucial diagnostic data. This reactive approach, without a structured troubleshooting process, can lead to recurring problems and a lack of confidence in the monitoring infrastructure. It also bypasses the intended benefits of the Tivoli solution, potentially leading to a failure to meet compliance or operational efficiency objectives. Focusing solely on other network components without considering the newly implemented Tivoli solution as a potential factor is a failure of comprehensive problem-solving. It represents a bias towards known issues and an unwillingness to consider new variables, which is detrimental to effective troubleshooting. This can lead to wasted resources investigating unrelated problems and prolonging the service disruption, which is professionally irresponsible. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach implementation challenges by adopting a structured, phased methodology. This involves thorough planning, risk assessment, controlled deployment, and continuous validation. When troubleshooting, a systematic approach to isolate variables and eliminate potential causes is crucial. This includes considering all components of the system, especially newly introduced ones, as potential sources of issues. Professionals must prioritize service continuity and minimize risk to end users throughout the implementation and troubleshooting process. Ethical considerations demand transparency, diligence, and a commitment to resolving issues effectively and efficiently. Question 10. The assessment process reveals that a critical security vulnerability has been identified in a Tivoli network and service assurance agent just days before a major client demonstration. The project team is under immense pressure to showcase the solution's full functionality on schedule. What is the most responsible course of action? Option A. Attempt to quickly patch the vulnerability internally without formal testing or approval to ensure the demonstration proceeds smoothly. Option B. Proceed with the client demonstration as planned, hoping the vulnerability will not be exploited and addressing it after the project is officially delivered. Option C. Immediately report the vulnerability to the designated security and management teams for investigation and remediation, even if it impacts the demonstration schedule. Option D. Inform the client about the vulnerability and let them decide how to proceed while continuing with the demonstration. Correct answer is C. Immediately report the vulnerability to the designated security and management teams for investigation and remediation, even if it impacts the demonstration schedule. Explanation. The assessment process reveals a situation where a network administrator, responsible for managing Tivoli network and service assurance solutions, discovers a potential security vulnerability within a newly deployed monitoring agent. This vulnerability, if exploited, could grant unauthorized access to sensitive network performance data. The administrator is under pressure to meet a critical project deadline for demonstrating the solution's effectiveness to a client. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a classic ethical dilemma balancing professional responsibility, client commitment, and potential risk. The administrator must weigh the immediate need to deliver a functional solution against the long-term implications of deploying a system with a known security flaw. The pressure to meet deadlines can incentivize cutting corners, making ethical judgment paramount. Correct approach analysis. The most professional and ethically sound approach is to immediately escalate the discovery of the vulnerability to the appropriate security and management teams, regardless of the project deadline. This aligns with the fundamental principle of prioritizing security and integrity. In the context of applying Tivoli solutions, this means adhering to IBM's best practices for security and incident response, which would mandate reporting such findings through established channels. This proactive disclosure ensures that the vulnerability can be addressed before it is exploited, protecting both the client's data and the reputation of the organization deploying the solution. It upholds the professional duty of care to ensure the deployed solutions are secure and reliable. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach would be to ignore the vulnerability to meet the project deadline, hoping it will not be discovered or exploited. This is a direct violation of professional ethics and potentially regulatory guidelines concerning data security and system integrity. It demonstrates a failure to uphold the duty of care and could lead to severe consequences, including data breaches, financial penalties, and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach would be to attempt to fix the vulnerability independently without proper authorization or testing, again to meet the deadline. While seemingly proactive, this bypasses established security protocols and change management processes. It risks introducing further instability or unintended consequences into the system, potentially exacerbating the original problem or creating new ones. This approach disregards the importance of controlled and validated changes, which are crucial for maintaining system integrity and compliance. A third incorrect approach would be to disclose the vulnerability only to the client, without informing internal security teams. This undermines internal governance and security practices. It also places the client in a difficult position and fails to leverage the organization's internal expertise to resolve the issue effectively. This demonstrates a lack of accountability and a failure to follow proper incident response procedures. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this field must adopt a decision-making process that prioritizes ethical conduct and risk mitigation. This involves 1. Recognizing the ethical implications of the situation. 2. Consulting relevant internal policies and procedures for security incident reporting and vulnerability management. 3. Escalating the issue through the proper channels without delay. 4. Communicating transparently with stakeholders about the discovery and the plan to address it while managing expectations regarding the project timeline. 5. Ensuring that any remediation efforts are thoroughly tested and validated before deployment. Question 11. The monitoring system demonstrates a consistent and significant degradation in a critical network service's performance metrics, deviating from established baselines. A junior technician, aware that this degradation will trigger an automatic breach notification to a key client and potentially incur penalties, considers adjusting the monitoring thresholds temporarily to prevent the notification from being sent until a root cause can be identified and resolved. Option A. Immediately escalate the observed performance degradation to the incident management team with all supporting data and document the deviation from baselines, regardless of the impending notification. Option B. Temporarily adjust the monitoring thresholds to prevent the automatic client notification, while simultaneously investigating the root cause of the performance degradation. Option C. Ignore the anomaly for a short period, assuming it might be a transient issue, and only escalate if the degradation persists for a longer duration. Option D. Manually override the monitoring system's data to reflect performance within acceptable limits until the issue is resolved. The correct answer is A. Immediately escalate the observed performance degradation to the incident management team with all supporting data and document the deviation from baselines, regardless of the impending notification. Explanation. This scenario presents an ethical dilemma concerning data integrity and the potential for misrepresentation of service performance. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate need to address a critical service degradation with the obligation to accurately report performance metrics. The temptation to manipulate data or delay reporting to avoid negative consequences must be resisted. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes transparency, accuracy, and adherence to established reporting protocols. By immediately escalating the issue and documenting the observed degradation, the professional upholds the integrity of the monitoring system and the data it generates. This aligns with the fundamental ethical principles of honesty and accountability in IT service management, ensuring that stakeholders receive timely and truthful information for decision-making. An incorrect approach that involves suppressing or altering the data to present a more favorable, albeit false, picture of service performance constitutes a serious ethical and potentially regulatory failure. This misrepresentation erodes trust, hinders effective problem resolution, and can lead to significant business impact if decisions are made based on inaccurate information. Such actions violate principles of professional conduct and could have repercussions under IT service management best practices and potentially any applicable service level agreements, SLAs, that mandate accurate reporting. Another incorrect approach, which is to ignore the anomaly hoping it resolves itself without intervention, is also professionally unacceptable. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and a failure to proactively manage service quality. It risks allowing a critical issue to persist, causing further damage and impacting customer satisfaction, which is contrary to the core objectives of a network and service assurance solution. The professional reasoning process in such situations should involve 1. Recognizing the anomaly and its potential impact. 2. Consulting established incident management and reporting procedures. 3. Escalating the issue to the appropriate personnel with clear, factual data. 4. Documenting all actions taken and observations made. 5. Avoiding any actions that compromise data integrity or transparency. This systematic approach ensures that issues are addressed effectively and ethically, maintaining the credibility of the IT service assurance function. Question 12. Operational review demonstrates that Tivoli network and service assurance solutions are capturing detailed network traffic data, which incidentally includes personally identifiable information, PI, of end users. The team is considering how to best manage this data to ensure both effective service assurance and compliance with privacy obligations. Which of the following approaches best balances operational needs with ethical and regulatory requirements? Option A. Develop a process to manually review and anonymize captured network traffic data on a case-by-case basis only when a specific operational issue or customer complaint arises that requires investigation of that particular data set. Option B. Implement automated data anonymization and aggregation techniques on all captured network traffic data before it is stored or analyzed, ensuring that PII is masked or removed. Option C. Store the raw, unanonymized network traffic data, relying on existing security measures to protect it, and only anonymize it if a specific customer request or regulatory audit necessitates it. Option D. Proceed with the analysis of the captured network traffic data as is, assuming that the incidental capture of PII is a minor issue that does not require specific handling beyond general network security protocols. The correct answer is B. Implement automated data anonymization and aggregation techniques on all captured network traffic data before it is stored or analyzed, ensuring that PII is masked or removed. Explanation. This scenario presents an ethical dilemma concerning data privacy and the responsible use of network monitoring tools within the context of Tivoli network and service assurance solutions. The challenge lies in balancing the need for comprehensive network performance data, which is essential for effective service assurance, with the obligation to protect sensitive customer information that might be incidentally captured. The core of the dilemma is the potential for misuse or unauthorized access to this data, even if collected with legitimate operational intent. The correct approach prioritizes adherence to data privacy regulations and ethical data handling principles by implementing robust anonymization and aggregation techniques before storing or analyzing the data. The organization upholds its commitment to customer privacy and complies with relevant data protection laws. This proactive measure ensures that, while performance insights are gained, individual customer data remains protected, thereby building trust and mitigating legal and reputational risks. This aligns with the fundamental ethical obligation to minimize harm and respect individual privacy, which is often codified in regulatory frameworks governing data handling. An incorrect approach that involves storing raw, unanonymized customer data without explicit consent or a clear, limited retention policy poses significant regulatory and ethical failures. This could violate data protection laws by failing to adequately safeguard personal information, leading to potential breaches and severe penalties. Ethically, it demonstrates a disregard for customer privacy and a lack of due diligence in managing sensitive data. Another incorrect approach, which is to ignore the incidental capture of customer data and proceed with analysis as if it were not present, is also professionally unacceptable. It demonstrates negligence and a failure to acknowledge and address potential privacy risks. It implies a lack of awareness or a deliberate sidestepping of responsibilities related to data stewardship, which can lead to regulatory noncompliance and erosion of customer trust. Finally, an approach that involves selectively anonymizing data only when a specific request is made, rather than as a standard operational procedure, is flawed. This reactive stance creates a window of vulnerability where unanonymized data could be exposed. It fails to implement a systematic, preventative approach to data privacy, which is a cornerstone of responsible data management and regulatory compliance. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a risk-based assessment. This includes identifying potential privacy risks associated with data collection and processing, evaluating the likelihood and impact of these risks, and implementing appropriate controls. Consulting with legal and compliance teams to ensure adherence to all applicable regulations, such as those pertaining to data protection and privacy, is crucial. Furthermore, establishing clear internal policies and providing regular training to personnel on data handling best practices reinforces a culture of ethical data stewardship. Question 13. Process analysis reveals that a critical network performance metric, monitored by Tivoli Network and Service Assurance Solutions, has shown a consistent downward trend over the past week, deviating significantly from established baselines. The system's automated reporting flags this deviation, but the immediate pressure from management is to ensure that the weekly service assurance report to clients presents a positive overall performance picture. As per contractual obligations, the team lead is considering several options to address this situation before the report is finalized. Option A. Investigate the root cause of the performance deviation, document the findings, and report the accurate, albeit concerning, trend to management, recommending immediate corrective actions. Option B. Manually override the reported data for the affected metric to reflect the previous week's baseline performance, citing a potential system glitch that has now been resolved. Option C. Adjust the reporting threshold for the specific metric in the Tivoli solution to exclude the recent downward trend, thereby presenting a more favorable performance overview in the client report. Option D. Focus the client report solely on other well-performing metrics and omit any mention of the declining performance of the flagged metric, assuming it is a temporary anomaly. The correct answer is A. Investigate the root cause of the performance deviation, document the findings, and report the accurate, albeit concerning, trend to management, recommending immediate corrective actions. Explanation. This scenario presents an ethical dilemma common in IT service assurance, specifically concerning data integrity and the potential for misrepresentation of service performance. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate need to report positive service metrics with the professional obligation to ensure accuracy and transparency, even when the data reveals a less favorable picture. The temptation to manipulate or selectively present data can arise from pressure to meet performance targets or avoid negative repercussions. The correct approach involves acknowledging the discrepancy and investigating its root cause. This aligns with professional ethics that prioritize honesty, integrity, and accountability. By reporting the accurate, albeit negative, data and initiating a process to understand and rectify the underlying issue, the professional demonstrates a commitment to the principles of good governance and reliable service delivery. This proactive stance builds trust with stakeholders and ensures that remediation efforts are based on factual information, ultimately leading to more sustainable service improvements. An incorrect approach would be to ignore or downplay the data anomaly. This failure to address the discrepancy directly constitutes a breach of professional integrity. It can lead to decisions being made based on flawed information, potentially exacerbating the service issue and misleading stakeholders about the true state of the network and service assurance solutions. Such an action could also violate internal company policies regarding data reporting and could have regulatory implications if the inaccurate reporting leads to noncompliance with service-level agreements or other contractual obligations. Another incorrect approach is to selectively present only the positive aspects of the data, omitting the concerning trend. This is a form of data manipulation and misrepresentation. It undermines the purpose of service assurance, which is to provide a clear and accurate view of performance to enable informed decision-making. This practice erodes trust and can lead to significant reputational damage if discovered. It also prevents the organization from addressing the actual problems affecting service quality. A third incorrect approach involves attempting to fix the data retrospectively without a clear audit trail or justification. This is unethical and can be construed as falsification of records. It bypasses the proper procedures for data correction and validation, making it impossible to trace the source of the original anomaly or the subsequent correction. This can lead to a loss of confidence in the entire data reporting system and may have severe consequences if the falsified data is relied upon for critical business decisions. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve 1. Recognizing and acknowledging the data anomaly. 2. Documenting the anomaly and its potential impact. 3. Investigating the root cause of the anomaly. 4. Reporting the findings accurately and transparently to relevant stakeholders. 5. Developing and implementing a plan to address the root cause and prevent recurrence. 6. Maintaining an audit trail of all actions taken. Question 14. The monitoring system demonstrates a critical security vulnerability alert related to a core network component supporting a vital customer service. While the service is currently operating without any reported issues, the alert indicates a potential for significant disruption if exploited. What is the most appropriate immediate action to take? Option A. Continue monitoring the service and escalate the alert only if performance degrades or customer complaints arise. Option B. Immediately escalate the alert to the designated security and network operations teams for assessment and to initiate the incident response process. Option C. Attempt to remediate the vulnerability directly, as the service is currently functional and no immediate impact is observed. Option D. Defer escalation of the alert until the next scheduled maintenance window to avoid disrupting current operations. The correct answer is B. Immediately escalate the alert to the designated security and network operations teams for assessment and to initiate the incident response process. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents an ethical dilemma where a Tivoli network and service assurance solution is flagging a potential security vulnerability that could impact a critical service. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate need for service availability with the imperative to address security risks promptly. The pressure to maintain uptime, especially for a critical service, can lead to a temptation to delay remediation, which carries significant risks. This requires careful judgment to prioritize actions based on potential impact and regulatory obligations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves immediately escalating the identified vulnerability to the relevant security and network operations teams for a thorough assessment and to initiate the defined incident response process. This aligns with best professional practice by acknowledging the potential severity of the flagged issue and engaging the appropriate expertise. From a regulatory and ethical standpoint, this demonstrates due diligence and a commitment to maintaining the integrity and security of the network and services. It proactively addresses potential breaches, which is often a requirement under data protection and service continuity regulations, ensuring that the organization is not negligent in its security posture. Incorrect approaches analysis. Delaying the escalation to await a less busy period or to gather more data without immediate notification represents a failure to act promptly on a potential security threat. This could lead to a breach that could have been prevented, resulting in regulatory penalties for negligence and a breach of ethical duty to protect customer data and service integrity. It also violates principles of good IT governance and risk management. Ignoring the alert because the service is currently functioning normally is a critical ethical and regulatory failure. Service availability does not equate to security. This approach disregards the proactive nature of security monitoring and the potential for a latent vulnerability to be exploited. It exposes the organization to significant risk and potential noncompliance with security standards and regulations that mandate proactive threat identification and mitigation. Attempting to fix the vulnerability without proper authorization or without following established change management and incident response procedures is also professionally unacceptable. This can lead to unintended consequences, service disruption, or the introduction of new vulnerabilities. It bypasses necessary checks and balances designed to ensure system stability and security, and it can violate internal policies and potentially external compliance requirements related to change control and incident management. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a risk-based decision-making framework. This involves 1. Identifying the potential risk, security vulnerability. 2. Assessing the potential impact, service disruption, data breach, regulatory fines. 3. Evaluating the urgency of the situation. 4. Consulting established policies and procedures, incident response, change management, security protocols. 5. Escalating to the appropriate stakeholders for collaborative decision-making and action. This structured approach ensures that decisions are informed, defensible, and aligned with both operational needs and regulatory/ethical obligations. Question 15. System analysis indicates a critical network service outage is impacting a significant number of customers, and the Tivoli network and service assurance solutions are configured to collect detailed performance metrics. To expedite the resolution, the immediate analysis of raw network traffic logs is deemed necessary. However, these logs may inadvertently contain customer-specific identifiers or sensitive communication details. What is the most appropriate course of action to balance the urgent need for troubleshooting with the imperative to protect customer privacy and comply with data protection regulations? Option A. Selectively anonymize only the most obvious personally identifiable information fields within the logs, leaving other potentially sensitive data unaddressed. Option B. Implement robust anonymization or pseudonymization techniques on the collected network traffic logs to obscure any personally identifiable information before commencing the troubleshooting analysis. Option C. Proceed with the analysis of raw network traffic logs, assuming the IT team will exercise discretion and avoid misuse of any sensitive information encountered. Option D. Halt all troubleshooting efforts until a completely anonymized dataset can be generated, even if it means a prolonged service outage for customers. The correct answer is C. Proceed with the analysis of raw network traffic logs, assuming the IT team will exercise discretion and avoid misuse of any sensitive information encountered. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge related to data privacy and security within the context of applying Tivoli network and service assurance solutions. The core dilemma lies in balancing the immediate need for comprehensive network performance data to resolve a critical service outage with the potential for that data to inadvertently contain sensitive customer information. The pressure to restore service quickly can lead to shortcuts that might compromise regulatory compliance and ethical obligations. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the troubleshooting process adheres to established data handling policies and legal requirements. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves anonymizing or pseudonymizing the collected network data before analysis. This aligns with the principles of data minimization and privacy by design, which are fundamental to regulatory frameworks like GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, if the jurisdiction were European, or similar data protection laws in other regions. By removing or obscuring personally identifiable information, PI, the organization upholds its commitment to protecting customer privacy while still enabling effective troubleshooting. This proactive measure ensures that the troubleshooting process does not create new privacy risks or violate data protection statutes, representing best professional practice. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to proceed with the analysis of raw, anonymized data, assuming that the IT team will be discreet. This is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It directly violates data protection principles by exposing sensitive customer information without proper safeguards. Such an action could lead to severe penalties under data privacy laws, reputational damage, and a breach of trust with customers. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for established security protocols. Another incorrect approach is to delay the troubleshooting process indefinitely until a perfect, fully anonymized dataset can be generated, even for non-sensitive network metrics. Privacy is paramount. An indefinite delay in resolving a critical service outage can lead to significant business disruption and customer dissatisfaction. This approach fails to strike a balance between security and operational necessity, potentially violating service-level agreements, SLAs, and demonstrating an inability to manage risk effectively. It prioritizes an absolute, potentially impractical, level of anonymization over the immediate need to restore essential services, which itself can have negative consequences. A third incorrect approach is to selectively anonymize only the most obviously sensitive data fields, leaving other potentially identifiable information intact. This approach is insufficient because it relies on a subjective interpretation of what constitutes sensitive data and may overlook less obvious but still identifiable information. It creates a false sense of security while still exposing the organization to privacy risks. This partial anonymization is a failure to implement robust data protection measures and can still result in regulatory noncompliance and ethical breaches. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach. When faced with a critical service outage requiring network data analysis, the first step is to consult existing data handling policies and relevant regulations. The goal is to identify the minimum necessary data for troubleshooting and to implement appropriate anonymization, pseudonymization techniques before accessing or analyzing that data. If existing policies are unclear or insufficient, escalation to a data protection officer or legal counsel is advisable. The decision-making process should prioritize compliance, privacy, and the timely resolution of the service issue, finding the optimal balance through established secure procedures. Question 16. Stakeholder feedback indicates a critical business service is experiencing intermittent performance degradation, and a key stakeholder is urgently requesting the immediate implementation of a specific Tivoli network and service assurance solution component, believing it will instantly resolve the issue. The proposed configuration, however, has not been fully tested against the current network topology or validated against the solution's documented best practices for this specific service type. What is the most appropriate course of action to ensure effective and responsible application of the Tivoli solution? Option A. Politely decline the stakeholder's request, stating that the Tivoli solution is not designed for rapid, ad hoc configuration changes and that the issue must be addressed through standard incident management processes. Option B. Implement a generic pre-configured Tivoli monitoring template that is known to work for similar services, without specific validation for this particular business service, to expedite the resolution. Option C. Proceed with the immediate implementation of the requested configuration as per the stakeholder's urgent request, prioritizing rapid deployment to address the perceived immediate need. Option D. Engage with the stakeholder to understand the root cause of the service degradation. Then follow the established Tivoli implementation and validation procedures, including testing the proposed configuration in a lab environment and documenting its impact before deployment. The correct answer is C. Proceed with the immediate implementation of the requested configuration as per the stakeholder's urgent request, prioritizing rapid deployment to address the perceived immediate need. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between immediate operational needs and long-term service assurance principles, compounded by the potential for misinterpreting or misapplying Tivoli network and service assurance solutions. The core difficulty lies in balancing the perceived urgency of a stakeholder's request with the established best practices for implementing and configuring monitoring tools, which are designed to prevent future issues and ensure service stability. A hasty or incomplete implementation, driven by pressure, could lead to inaccurate data, false alarms, or missed critical events, ultimately undermining the very service assurance the solution is intended to provide. Correct approach, which involves a thorough understanding of the Tivoli solution's capabilities and a structured implementation process, represents best professional practice because it aligns with the fundamental principles of IT service management and the intended use of network and service assurance tools. This approach prioritizes data integrity, accurate configuration, and validation before full deployment. It ensures that the solution effectively monitors the service, provides reliable insights, and contributes to proactive problem resolution, thereby upholding the organization's commitment to service quality and stakeholder trust. This aligns with the general ethical obligation to perform duties competently and diligently, ensuring that deployed technologies serve their intended purpose without introducing new risks. An incorrect approach that bypasses standard validation procedures, such as directly implementing a configuration based solely on a stakeholder's request without proper testing or understanding of its impact on the broader network and service assurance framework, is professionally unacceptable. This failure represents a disregard for the systematic approach required for implementing complex IT solutions. It risks introducing configuration errors that could lead to inaccurate monitoring, false positives or negatives, and ultimately, a degradation of service assurance. Ethically, this approach demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to uphold professional standards in system implementation, potentially leading to significant operational disruptions and financial losses for the organization. Another incorrect approach, which involves making assumptions about the Tivoli solution's behavior or the network environment without consulting documentation or performing necessary diagnostics, is also professionally unsound. This demonstrates a lack of technical rigor and an abdication of responsibility to thoroughly understand the tools being deployed. Such assumptions can lead to misconfigurations that render the monitoring ineffective or, worse, actively harmful to the service. This violates the professional obligation to possess and apply the necessary knowledge and skills to perform one's duties effectively and safely. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Understand the request. Clearly define the stakeholder's objective and the perceived problem. 2. Assess impact. Evaluate how the proposed solution or change might affect the existing Tivoli implementation, the network, and overall service assurance. 3. Consult documentation and best practices. Refer to the official Tivoli documentation and established IT service management frameworks for guidance on implementation and configuration. 4. Plan and design. Develop a detailed plan that includes testing, validation, and rollback procedures. 5. Test and validate. Rigorously test the proposed changes in a controlled environment before deploying to production. 6. Communicate. Keep stakeholders informed throughout the process, managing expectations regarding timelines and potential outcomes. 7. Implement and monitor. Deploy the solution according to the plan and closely monitor its performance post-implementation. Question 17. The monitoring system demonstrates a pattern of alerts indicating potential noncompliance with data handling policies during a critical service delivery period. The immediate business impact of a service interruption is severe, and there is pressure to restore full functionality without delay. What is the most professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Conduct a thorough investigation of the alerts. Document all findings and potential policy breaches, and consult with the compliance team before implementing any remediation or workaround. Option B. Immediately suppress the alerts and continue service delivery while initiating a separate, low-priority investigation into the policy violations. Option C. Implement a temporary workaround that bypasses the flagged policy violations to restore service without documenting the workaround or seeking formal approval. Option D. Escalate the issue to senior management for an immediate decision on how to proceed, without performing any initial technical investigation. The correct answer is B. Immediately suppress the alerts and continue service delivery while initiating a separate, low-priority investigation into the policy violations. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents an ethical dilemma where a Tivoli network and service assurance solution is flagging potential policy violations that could impact a critical business function. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate need for service continuity with the imperative to adhere to established compliance policies and regulatory requirements. The pressure to restore service quickly might tempt an individual to bypass or delay addressing the flagged issues, potentially leading to more significant problems down the line, including regulatory penalties or reputational damage. The professional challenge is to make a decision that is both operationally sound and ethically compliant. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic and documented process of investigation and remediation, prioritizing compliance and risk mitigation. This aligns with the fundamental principles of responsible IT management and adherence to regulatory frameworks that mandate data integrity, security, and operational transparency. By thoroughly investigating the alerts, documenting findings, and engaging relevant stakeholders, including compliance officers, the individual ensures that any actions taken are informed, justifiable, and in line with established policies and regulations. This approach upholds the integrity of the monitoring system's findings and demonstrates a commitment to a secure and compliant operational environment. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves immediately disabling or suppressing the alerts without proper investigation. This is ethically problematic as it deliberately ignores potential policy violations and regulatory noncompliance, creating a blind spot in the monitoring process. It suggests a prioritization of expediency over responsibility, which could lead to undetected breaches or security vulnerabilities, violating principles of due diligence and potentially contravening regulations that require proactive risk management and incident reporting. Another incorrect approach is to escalate the issue to management for a decision without conducting any initial investigation. While escalation is sometimes necessary, doing so without any preliminary analysis demonstrates a lack of initiative and technical responsibility. It shifts the burden of problem solving without providing the necessary context or initial findings, potentially delaying resolution and failing to uphold professional standards of investigation and problem ownership. This can also lead to decisions being made based on incomplete information, increasing the risk of unintended consequences. A third incorrect approach is to proceed with a workaround that bypasses the flagged policy violation without documenting the deviation or seeking appropriate authorization. This is a direct violation of established procedures and potentially regulatory mandates. It introduces unmanaged risk, as the workaround might have unforeseen side effects or fail to address the root cause of the policy violation. This approach undermines the integrity of the system and the compliance framework, creating an environment where policy adherence is optional rather than mandatory. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such dilemmas should employ a structured decision-making process. First, they must understand the nature and severity of the flagged issue by thoroughly investigating the Tivoli alerts. Second, they should consult relevant policies, procedures, and regulatory guidelines to determine the compliance implications. Third, they should document their findings and proposed actions, including any risks associated with different courses of action. Fourth, they should communicate transparently with relevant stakeholders, including management and compliance teams, to seek guidance or approval for their proposed solution. Finally, they must ensure that their chosen course of action is both operationally effective and ethically sound, prioritizing long-term compliance and risk mitigation over short-term expediency. Question 18. The risk matrix shows that optimizing the incident management process for faster resolution times carries a moderate risk of data corruption and a low risk of increased false positives. Which approach best balances efficiency gains with regulatory compliance and service integrity? Option A. Update the incident management documentation to reflect faster resolution targets without altering the underlying process or tools. Option B. Implement a new, automated incident categorization system immediately across all services, relying on initial vendor-provided configurations. Option C. Focus solely on reducing the average time to close incidents by empowering junior staff to bypass certain validation steps. Option D. Conduct a pilot program for the optimized incident management process on a non-critical service, gathering detailed performance metrics and user feedback before a wider rollout. The correct answer is B. Implement a new automated incident categorization system immediately across all services, relying on initial vendor-provided configurations. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT service management, balancing the need for process optimization with the potential for unintended consequences and regulatory compliance. The risk matrix, a standard tool for assessing potential impacts and likelihoods, highlights that while optimizing the incident management process can improve efficiency, it also carries risks related to data integrity and service continuity. The challenge lies in selecting an optimization strategy that maximizes benefits while minimizing risks, particularly in a regulated environment where adherence to established procedures and data protection is paramount. The correct approach focuses on a phased, data-driven optimization of the incident management process, incorporating robust testing and validation. This aligns with best practices in IT service management, emphasizing a controlled and measured implementation of changes. By leveraging historical data and pilot testing, the organization can identify and mitigate potential issues before a full rollout, ensuring that the optimized process remains compliant with relevant regulations. This approach demonstrates due diligence and a commitment to maintaining service quality and data integrity, which are often mandated by regulatory frameworks governing IT operations and data handling. An incorrect approach that bypasses thorough testing and validation, or one that prioritizes speed over comprehensive risk assessment, would be professionally unacceptable. Such an approach risks introducing errors into the incident management workflow, potentially leading to misclassification of incidents, delayed resolution, or even data breaches. From a regulatory perspective, this could result in non-compliance with data protection laws, e.g., GDPR if applicable to the exam's jurisdiction, or equivalent local regulations and service-level agreements, leading to penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. Another incorrect approach might involve implementing changes without adequate stakeholder consultation, which can lead to resistance, operational disruptions, and a failure to achieve the desired optimization due to a lack of buy-in and understanding of the new process. This undermines the collaborative nature of effective IT service management and can create further inefficiencies. Professionals should approach process optimization by first understanding the current state and identifying specific pain points through data analysis and stakeholder feedback. They should then develop a clear set of objectives for the optimization, aligned with business goals and regulatory requirements. A risk assessment should be conducted for each proposed change, and mitigation strategies developed. Implementation should be phased, with pilot programs and thorough testing before a full rollout. Continuous monitoring and feedback loops are essential to ensure the optimized process is effective and remains compliant over time. Question 19. Strategic planning requires a proactive approach to process optimization within the Tivoli network and service assurance solutions environment. Considering the need to enhance operational efficiency and service quality, which of the following strategies best aligns with a robust governance framework and regulatory compliance? Option A. Implementing process changes based on a thorough review of existing regulatory requirements and consultation with compliance and audit teams to ensure adherence. Option B. Focusing on cost reduction as the primary driver for optimization, with secondary consideration given to process functionality and regulatory implications. Option C. Prioritizing rapid implementation of perceived efficiency gains by streamlining processes without formal impact assessments on compliance or risk. Option D. Adopting new technologies and methodologies solely based on industry trends and vendor recommendations, assuming they will inherently meet regulatory needs. Correct answer is A. Implementing process changes based on a thorough review of existing regulatory requirements and consultation with compliance and audit teams to ensure adherence. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT service management, balancing the need for continuous improvement and process optimization with the constraints of a regulated environment. The professional challenge lies in identifying and implementing changes that enhance efficiency and service delivery without inadvertently violating compliance requirements or introducing new risks. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any proposed optimization aligns with the established governance frameworks and regulatory mandates. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough understanding of the existing regulatory landscape and its implications for process changes. By engaging with compliance and audit teams, the professional ensures that proposed optimizations are vetted against relevant regulations, such as those governing data privacy, service availability, and incident reporting, as defined by the specific jurisdiction for the C2010-576 exam. This proactive engagement minimizes the risk of noncompliance, which can lead to significant penalties, reputational damage, and operational disruptions. It demonstrates a commitment to responsible IT governance and adherence to established standards. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on speed and cost reduction without considering regulatory impact is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to violations of data handling regulations, failure to meet mandated service level agreements, or inadequate audit trails, all of which carry severe regulatory penalties and ethical implications. Another incorrect approach that bypasses established change management and approval processes, even with good intentions, undermines the integrity of the IT governance framework. This can result in unmanaged risks, inconsistent service delivery, and a lack of accountability, which are all ethically and regulatorily problematic. A third incorrect approach that relies on anecdotal evidence or personal experience without data-driven validation or regulatory review risks implementing ineffective or even detrimental changes. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to uphold professional standards of evidence-based decision-making within a regulated context. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, clearly define the objective of the process optimization. Second, Conduct a comprehensive review of all applicable regulations and internal policies relevant to the process. Third, identify potential optimization strategies and assess their impact on compliance and risk. Fourth, consult with relevant stakeholders, including compliance officers, auditors, and business unit representatives, to gather input and ensure alignment. Fifth, develop a detailed implementation plan that includes risk mitigation strategies and a rollback plan. Finally, monitor the implemented changes and their impact on both performance and compliance. Question 20. The efficiency study reveals that the initial response time to critical network alerts generated by Tivoli Network and Service Assurance Solutions has increased by 15% over the last quarter, impacting service availability metrics. Which of the following actions is the most appropriate first step to address this trend? Option A. Conduct a detailed review of the Tivoli alert correlation rules and the incident management workflow to identify specific points of delay or misdirection in alert handling. Option B. Implement mandatory overtime for the network operations team to expedite the acknowledgement and resolution of all incoming alerts. Option C. Reassign the responsibility for initial alert triage to a different team without first analyzing the current process. Option D. Immediately adjust the alert severity thresholds within Tivoli to reduce the volume of critical alerts being generated. The correct answer is A. Conduct a detailed review of the Tivoli alert correlation rules and the incident management workflow to identify specific points of delay or misdirection in alert handling. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT service management, balancing the need for immediate issue resolution with the long-term goal of process optimization. The efficiency study highlights a potential bottleneck in the incident management process, specifically related to the initial triage and assignment of network alerts generated by Tivoli Network and Service Assurance Solutions. The professional challenge lies in identifying the root cause of the inefficiency without disrupting ongoing service delivery or violating established operational procedures and compliance requirements. The correct approach focuses on a data-driven, systematic investigation of the incident management workflow. This involves analyzing the metrics provided by the efficiency study, correlating them with Tivoli's alert data, and engaging with the teams responsible for incident handling. By understanding the current state, identifying specific pain points, e.g., delays in acknowledgement, incorrect initial categorization, repeated escalations, and then proposing targeted improvements to the Tivoli configuration or the incident response playbook, the team can achieve sustainable process optimization. This aligns with best practices in ITIL, Information Technology Infrastructure Library, frameworks, which are foundational for service assurance solutions like Tivoli, emphasizing continuous improvement and proactive problem management. Adhering to these principles ensures that changes are well justified, tested, and implemented with minimal risk to service availability, thereby maintaining compliance with service-level agreements, SLAs, and any relevant industry standards for operational resilience. An incorrect approach would be to immediately implement broad, untested changes to Tivoli's alert thresholds or routing rules without a thorough understanding of the underlying issues. This could lead to alert fatigue, missed critical incidents, or unnecessary workload on support teams, potentially violating SLAs and leading to service degradation. Another incorrect approach would be to solely blame the network operations team without investigating the Tivoli configuration or the incident management process itself. This reactive and finger-pointing strategy undermines collaboration and fails to address the systemic causes of inefficiency, potentially leading to a recurrence of the problem and a breach of professional conduct by not seeking a holistic solution. A third incorrect approach might involve bypassing established change management procedures to quickly implement a perceived fix. This poses significant risks, including unintended consequences, lack of proper testing, and potential noncompliance with audit trails and security policies, all of which are critical in regulated environments. Professionals should adopt a structured decision-making process that begins with a clear understanding of the problem statement and the available data. This involves defining the scope of the investigation, gathering relevant information from monitoring tools like Tivoli, process documentation, and stakeholder interviews. The next step is to analyze the findings to identify root causes, not just symptoms. Based on this analysis, potential solutions should be evaluated for their feasibility, impact, and alignment with best practices and any applicable regulatory requirements. Finally, A plan for implementation, testing, and ongoing monitoring should be developed and executed, ensuring that all changes are documented and approved through appropriate channels.